All right, so the floor framing is done. The crawl space work is all done. We've passed inspection. We have an underfloor inspection here because, hey, who wants to crawl? I mean, I don't. So we're gonna go kind of slow through this video. This video is gonna be entirely dedicated to floor sheathing. So let me just say right off the bat that this video is sponsored by Huber Engineered Woods, the makers of Advantech Subfloor and Zip System, and that subfloor adhesive that I'm showing you right there. We love that stuff, and that's why we partner with Huber. Okay, so as I was mentioning, we're gonna go kind of slow through this video for a couple of reasons. One, it turns out in conversations on social media that a lot of the things that I take for granted, others didn't know or don't know. I guess maybe that's the same thing. So we're gonna go kind of slow, and as we go through this, I think you'll see what I'm talking about. Second, we wanna go slow because not everybody that views these videos is a framer. So I have a tendency to kind of gloss over a lot of what we're doing because for some reason in my head, I'm thinking I'm just showing framers what we're doing as framers. That's not true. It might be largely true, but it's not totally true. So let's get into it. So first of all, notice that I am using the Advantech Subfloor Adhesive. It's one of a few adhesives on the market that's dispensed from a foam canister. Now what's special about this one is that it is foam that comes out of the barrel and then it reduces to a polyurethane gel. Did you notice how easy it was? I mean, it's like the fastest. And with that longer barrel, even as a short guy, I barely have to lean out over the joist to install that glue. So that is a win-win. Now, I'm going to show you a video that we showed at the International Builder Show here in 2022. I shot that over the winter, and I'm going to go ahead and include it here. That way, if you didn't make it to the show, well, you don't have to miss out entirely. The real star of this video is that 2x6 beater board with a scrap piece of 2x6 nailed to it. That way we don't have to bend over to pick up the beater board. Now in the future I'll use 2x4, but since this is so early in the process, we only had 2x4 or 2x6. Well, that's easy for me to say. If I had 2x4, that's what I would use just to lighten it up, but we just had 2x6. So notice that I am laying these first couple rows by myself. That's because Kyle was operating the forklift and unloading the lumber truck. So that's it. Nice and easy. So a lot of manufacturers say not to use a sledgehammer. And what they mean by that is not to beat the sheets tight. But the reality is to get those sheets, the tongue into the groove, you really do need to persuade it. And I'm not wailing on it with a sledgehammer. You could do it with your hammer, you could do it physically. You see a lot of guys online that will actually get on the other end of the joist and shove the sheets together. But by using a sledgehammer, you're saving the wear and tear on your body. Let the weight of the hammer do its work. We only want to get those sheets, the tongue in the groove. We don't want to beat them tight. Now, Advantech has it printed on the panels, and quite a number of other companies do as well. We want a 1/8 inch gap on all sides of the panel. Okay, 1/8 inch gap, and that allows the panels to move. They come out very dry, but notice in the background, we have storm clouds building. This floor is going to get wet because it's wintertime. And I'm going to circle back around to that later. I'm nailing the panels down instead of screwing them down. For years, our preference has been to screw them as we go. But to be quite frank, it's a little slower, and if the tool breaks down at all, frankly, it just puts us in a bad mood. So here's our process. Nail it off with 2.5 inch by 0.131 inch deformed nails. Deformed nails is just a code reference to like a ring shank nail. Notice that along those edges, I'm nailing 6 inches, and now here in the field, every 12 inches. So that's what our engineer requires, that's what the manufacturer requires. In some cases, like if it's a floor diaphragm and it's called out by the engineer, you might have to go tighter. Now we're going to come back to this because I want to hit a couple of these points a little bit more closely. So what I want to show with this drone clip is how fast and easy it is to dispense that particular glue. Now again, this is a sponsored video, so take that for what it's worth. We've been using this glue now for 5 years. When I price it out, It's actually a little less money than PL Premium, and it is a whole lot faster. So I'll relate to you an experience I just had at the lumberyard about 2 weeks before this video was edited. We're about the only guys using this in our area, and I don't even talk to our lumber salesman. I either order it directly off Amazon or it just ships with the subfloor. So I haven't really talked to our lumber salesman, but he mentioned that he's been doing some research on it independent because somebody else at the lumberyard wants it. And when he priced it, he found that it was actually less expensive than the PL Premium. So again, take that for what it's worth. That's me doing my calcs, and it's the lumber salesman doing his, so they're going to bring it in and stock it in the store. And we'll get into some of the other benefits as we go. Whenever you lay subfloor, pretty much all the manufacturers require that if the first row starts with an 8-footer, the second row starts with a 4-footer. So that's exactly what you see here. So that's why row number 3 has an 8-footer again. That staggers the seams, and it creates a stronger floor system. I want you to notice something too as we go through the video. I tend not to let the sheets crash into the ground, but notice that I'm not super dainty with them. You know, I kind of squat down and let the panel go. You can't really damage the tongues on the Advantech subfloor. Frankly, any of the premium subfloors, they've all been great for us. Even the mid-grade has been, you just don't have to be gentle. When I started, we did have to be gentle with plywood tongue and groove. So you wouldn't let them crash down because it would break off the tongue, or it would kind of mushroom it, making it harder to slide into the groove, the receiving panel, put it that way. One thing I want to point out, you're going to hear this later too, is notice in the background, Kyle has the glue gun with the can still on it, but he's mixing up the next can. I'm going to show you what a little kid he is. Yep, let's be honest. If any of you picked this thing up, you would do the same thing. So we use this, I think it's called Kwik. I'll put a link in the description. Yeah. Normally Kyle likes to show off his biceps when it's summertime, but too many layers. Okay, so now that the can is fully shaken, which mixes it, that's a requirement, 30 seconds or more. A lot of your spray foam cans will say like 30 seconds to a minute. Same thing with the glue. So he's completely emptied the gun out. Then he installs this one. We're going to get years out of this gun because we're going to take really good care of them. I wanted you to note that because you can't just go right to this subfloor system, the adhesive, and not have problems. You will unless you follow the very specific order of maintaining the guns. It's really simple, but follow that and the guns are going to last you and perform really well. We've learned that the hard way, by the way, in the last 5 years. Okay, so let's get back to the install. Kyle is gluing. So generally when it's the two of us, he glues, I pack the sheets, he beats the sheets into place, and then I fasten them down. And we basically, that's not a hard and fast rule, but that's just the way it works out timing-wise. So I'm going to go ahead and pack that 4-footer over. Remember I said that we have to alternate 8-foot and 4-foot as starters. So here's the 4-footer. As Kyle beats and tacks it into place, it's my job to burn off some of this gut that I've acquired as I've gotten older and eaten probably too much sugar and calorie-dense foods. I really worry about not framing someday. Anyway, I digress. So I'm going to pack. Now notice as I pack the sheets. Yeah, I'm not treating them I'm not babying them. If you've ever packed Advantech or nailed through it, then you know what I'm talking about. Now what Kyle's doing there is he's being really particular on that tongue and groove joint. We tend to go just a little bigger than that 1/8. We shoot for more like a 3/16 or even a 1/4 inch gap at that joint because we know that this floor is going to get a lot of weather. You're also noticing that we are not working at breakneck speed. I've seen some videos online recently where guys are just going they're just going crazy installing the stuff. Blasting nails without really giving it much thought. It's all about speed. So ask me how many floors that we've ever had to do repairs in the 44 years that this company has been in business due to improper installation. The answer is 0. Be productive, stay in motion, know your job, but go at a pace that allows you to nail properly and set the sheets properly. That 1/8" gap all the way around is critical. Now, there's a lot of people online that complain about OSB products. Nearly always it's due to improper installation. And isn't that just the case with just about everything in life? Turns out if we actually read the instructions and follow them, it's like we avoid most of the issues. Okay, getting off my soapbox. As we go through the project, you're going to see in more detail why our bolts are sticking up. I made mention of it in previous videos, but I'll just say it again here in case you haven't seen it. We're aiming for a 0 entry floor so that this entire main level is wheelchair friendly. That means that somebody can wheel right into the house with no steps. So that's why the top of the floor joist is flush with the top of the mud sill. Now for inspection, we had to bolt that mud sill down. Once the inspector left, we popped those bolts off. He just needs to see them. He's going to see them again when we bolt the bottom plates of the exterior walls right down through the sheathing, through the mud sill to the concrete. And that's going to make more sense in the future. The negative of this is that whenever you get to that last piece, you have to do some drilling. Is it a big deal? No. It's just that subfloor is a very production-oriented thing where there's not much to it, and it's nice just to keep rolling. So notice Kyle, he's just tapping those sheets, and he's watching the gaps all the way around. Now he's dragged the gun with him. Whenever I do this, I prefer to use the Pass Load XP hoseless nailer because I don't like to have a hose with me, but it doesn't matter. Pro tip. Are you ready for this? Pro tip. Notice where Kyle has the hose coming from. Do you see it? It's in the back. How many of us have just dragged our hoses across the glue and we end up with glue all over our clothes, hands, everything. So just... I think I was doing a Shane impression there.
I'm still not berserker enough to be Shane.
Nope. That's a good thing. So notice that Kyle, he's tacked it down. Now he's going to go ahead and nail off. And since I know he's nailing off, he had the gun, then I grab the glue. So even though we each have our respective jobs, we both know what needs to be done at any given moment. And so it's kind of nice, right? It's like a good improv band. Somebody just changes the tempo or the key and the rest of the band goes along with it because they all know their parts. Although I think being in an improv jazz band is probably significantly more, takes more knowledge. Again, notice how fast that glue is. If you are still hand squeezing glue, then you know that's always the slowest part of the process, right? And it's harder on the body. Not anymore. I mean, it really did significantly improve our speed. We already went pretty fast. We'd used a pneumatic glue gun, and then after that we switched to a cordless, battery-powered glue gun, which was heavy, but it was still really nice. A lot better than hand squeezing. So now as I head back, I'm done gluing, I go ahead and drag the sledgehammer and everything back to the start. Because it's time to start packing some sheeting. So in this case, I'm just going to stay in that groove as the donkey. That's my nickname is the burro. The burro. I'm also better known as a jackass. That's kind of just, it's a family trait that we're very proud of. And if you knew my family, you would know I'm not kidding. So I know Kyle's going to finish nailing. I'm just going to go ahead and pack the sheets. And I'm going to drop them into place. Kind of ahead of him. I got it pretty close, but I'm not going to be too particular because that's his job. My job is just to, weak minds, strong backs. That is the Euler family motto, or at least it should be. So in this case, I am the strong back and weak mind, although I am older. So some of you might be wondering to yourself, in fact, you're probably going to comment this. Am I too weak to carry these sheets? No, not yet. I think that day is coming sooner than later. Notice how I slide the sheet off the pile? I am trying to do my best to avoid having to pick it up completely. Here's an advantage of the zero entry, is I'm letting that sheet, I'm trying to work the material, right? I'm not letting the material work me. I'm also wearing those elbow sleeves because carrying sheet goods is the one thing that really aggravates my elbows. And those sleeves, I'll put a link down below. They really do help on days like this. So anyway, just cover some of the little things. So you can see there I need to drill for the bolts. You can't see it, but the Forstner bit that I have in that drill, I think it's a 2, a 2¼ or 2½ inch bit. Like, I don't have to be that accurate on these bolts because it doesn't matter. It does matter on the mud cell and it does matter on the bottom plates of the wall above, but it does not matter here for the sheathing because it's all glued down, it's all nailed. I mean, there's literally no reason to try and go tight with those. So this is one of those areas where, at least in my view, everybody, you can have your own opinion on this, and you're certainly not wrong. In my opinion, this is one of those things where you can just make your life easier because there's no loss of strength or quality. Like, it just doesn't matter. So don't try to be super precise and then have to. What happens is, if you try to be super precise, is that it's harder to fit those sheets over the bolts and also beat them into the tongue into the groove, as well as, it just makes your life harder. So, but you might try it differently, and that's okay. It really doesn't matter. My only point is where you can, try to make things easier. Now, this is real time. Like I said, we're going to take it slow. This is exactly the speed at which Kyle and I nail. We're not out to break some kind of speed record. We're driving a pretty big nail through very dense material, and so going too fast, you just end up with proud nails anyway. Some of you might be thinking, look how far this guy had to walk to get his next coil of nails. And you're right. But we have to bend over a lot, and I feel personally, again, this is just my opinion, when I can stand up and go over and get the nails, and they're out of the way so that I don't step on them, we don't drag a hose through them, we don't knock them off the floor, which we've done many times, it gives my body a break. I just don't want to stay in the same position too much. So I'm able to aim for the dots on the Advantech Subfloor. That gives me my 12-inch spacing in the field fasteners, which is what the manufacturer requires. It's what our engineer requires. I know, I've already said that, but I'm saying it again. Then 6 inches on the edges. That's just pretty standard. You're going to find that across, I think, every manufacturer, because it's based on testing data. So think of this. The fasteners act as clamps so that the glue bonds the joist to the subfloor. And in just a couple of minutes, I'm going to show you a test that I did, and then we showed it at the International Builder Show, that convinces me that this is the best subfloor adhesive on the market. In fact, if you have the experience of having to pull any of this up after the fact, you will then be convinced. It is a nightmare. But go a little slower and place your fasteners. Missed nails can cause squeaks, and there's no sense in putting too many fasteners in. Unless, of course, your engineer requires that for his calculations, then it's not too many, it's just more than what might be required by the manufacturer. So again, notice Kyle, he's gluing, and I'm starting the whole process all over again. By the way, it's somebody that actually commented on a YouTube video about a year ago that got us actually putting that handle on the 2x6. Yeah, I suffer from severe tunnel vision. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and speed up the video because really nothing new to show here. It's just more of the same. I'm just dragging sheets into place, and Kyle's placing them correctly, tacking them as he goes. So I'm doing whatever I can to avoid picking up those sheets. They seem to be getting heavier as I get older, even though their weight has not changed. Oh, and hey, look at that. Awesome Framers made a mistake. So that joist, I needed to cut about 3/4 off of that to split or center over the joist. So hey, look, we're keeping it real. Keeping it real. Never will we claim that we've done anything perfectly. Quite the opposite. Oh, man. Anyway, that wall with the block line in front, that's just one of those strip footings, and a pony wall, but the line in the immediate foreground of blocking, that is a master bedroom wall that supports all the way up to the roof. My name is Tim Mueller. I'm a framer out in Washington State, and today I wanted to talk to you about the Advantech Subfloor Adhesive. This is by far my favorite adhesive. It is the easiest to install, and it is the strongest of all the subfloor glues that we've tried in the past. So let me just explain to you briefly why it is I like this system so much. First of all, the applicator gun is ridiculously lightweight, and with the long barrel, it means I don't have to bend over and stretch as far. So lightweight makes it a lot easier on your body, and it's safer because you're not leaning out over the joist as far. The other thing is that this can has enough glue in it for us to go about 20 sheets before we need to put a new can on. So here's some basics about using it, because if you've ever used a foam gun, you have probably ruined a few of the dispensers or the applicator guns. So when you use the Advantech Subfloor Adhesive, you have to shake it for a minimum of 30 seconds. I'll show you our preferred way to do that in just a moment. Make sure that you shake it. When you dispense the glue, you want it to come out as a dark purple. That's when you know the glue is going to hold the best. It's going to come out as foam, and then it's going to reduce to gel. It's not difficult to shake the can for 30 seconds, but we buy these mixed Kwik attachments for our reciprocating saw because not only can we vigorously shake these cans, we can use it on spray paint, primer, cans of paint, small cans of paint, etc. So here's how that works. And you want to feather the trigger. You don't want it to be violent. I know a guy who's broken a couple of these. So you want to do that for a minimum of 30 seconds. What that does is it makes sure that everything is mixed up really well, and then when it comes out of the barrel, it's going to come out a nice dark purple. Okay, so shake it for 30 seconds. Once the can is on the applicator gun, it can stay there for 30 days. As long as you turn the barrel off so that you can't pull the trigger, you'll easily get 30 days out of the can. Now, between you and me, we've gone a lot longer and had good success. If you leave it on the basket locked, it won't go bad either. Like, it won't clog up the gun. Now, the thing is though, like, we'll get at least a year out of these before one of us forgets to clean it. When you swap the cans, spray a little bit of cleaner around the basket. That will instantly dissolve the foam. Screw the can on and spray through the barrel until it's only spraying cleaner. If you do that, this applicator gun will last you a long time. A major advantage of this subfloor adhesive is that it is made to adhere to wet and frozen wood. Also, I don't have to sit there and crank on a frozen tube of glue. Put this stuff in the cab on your way to work. It's going to come out of the barrel just fine. Easy. It makes our job much easier in the wintertime. Now, what about working time? How far can I glue before the sheets have to go down and get fastened? About 20 minutes is the working time. So only put enough glue down that you can guarantee that you're going to get the panel down and fastened. Now here's the thing, you want to fasten as you go. Fasteners act like clamps, and that allows the bond on these joists to subfloor to fully set and cure. Now I'm going to show you that I can glue a 2x6 to my floor joists, let it cure for a minimum of 24 hours, and I can take the fasteners out and still hang from it. It's going to support my weight. Okay, so let's go ahead and I will demonstrate that for you. All right, it has been exactly 1 week since I glued and screwed that 2x6 to the underside of those floor joists. Now it is time to take out the fasteners and see if it will hold my weight. Okay, here we go. So as you can see, this 2x6 that's glued, by the way, only to 4 joists, has no problem holding up my 16 stones of weight. You can do the conversion on that. This is one of the reasons why we absolutely love using Advantech Subfloor Adhesive. Stuck it. Okay. And here is one of the big selling points. I mentioned it in that video. Yes, I know it reads like an ad or watches like an ad because basically that's what it was. However, it's what I believe. This was the next day. We could have stayed and finished, but we had appointments that evening. And so, yep, it's pouring rain. Remember I said it was going to get rained on? But what is one of the major selling points of this adhesive? Yeah,
Okay, can you do me
moisture cured.
a favor?
You can use it on wet and frozen wood. So this is wet wood. Look at how easy that is. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, and I know that you might be because many people commented this on Instagram. They said, oh, that glue is never going to work, it's raining. Quite the opposite. Try it, just try it. If you have the opportunity, get some wood that's wet. If you're like me and you spent years using PL or other subfloor glues, I think we used OSI for years, they did their job, but they would just fall right off that wet joist. So here is just a close-up of how it dispenses. Notice it came out as foam, but look how quickly it breaks down into the gel. See how it kind of widened out over that wet joist? I'm telling you, you could pull all the fasteners, you're not going to get that sheet off. Besides, if it supports my 16 stones. So this just gives you an idea of how the first bead starts to reduce while the next beads go. So by the time you get to the end of that run, it's all ready. It's all reduced from the foam to the gel. All right, and that is going to bring this video to its conclusion. Thank you for watching. Please hit that like and subscribe button. That really does help out my channel, and I really appreciate those of you that have done that. And if you haven't, no worries. Thanks for watching. In the next video, we're going to get into snapping out layout again, because now we're going to really tighten that up, and we're going to start getting into some wall framing and why we frame the way we do, as well as why, like, the order that we go in might seem a little counterintuitive, but I'm going to explain all of that. We've got a bunch of framing videos coming, so stay tuned. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe.